Hello, this is Mrs. Decker, and in this video, I'm going to go over Objective 2.2c on modeling covalent bonds. So we've already done 2.2b on modeling ionic bonds, and you should remember that for ionic bonds, electrons are transferred from one element to another. So we show that with arrows showing the movement of electrons. Covalent bonds are different in that the electrons are shared between two atoms. So in modeling covalent bonds, we're going to show that the electrons are shared by using circles around the electrons. So in this example shown on your pages, we have two chlorine atoms that are going to bond together. And each of them has 7 valence electrons, so those are shown in the dots around the chlorine atoms. And each one has 7, they want to get to 8. So they get to 8 by sharing those two single electrons. So you just put a circle around those two electrons to show that they are shared. And now each chlorine atom has 8 valence electrons. So again, in modeling covalent bonds, valence electrons and drawing dot diagrams is very important. So you want to make sure you know how to do this. And this table will kind of help you review. So carbon has 6 protons and 6 electrons, but only 4 of those electrons are valence electrons. And remember, we find that out because carbon is in group 4A, which means it has 4 valence electrons. Remember, the goal of most atoms is to get to 8 valence electrons in their outer shell. So carbon will need 4 more to fill its outside shell. Chlorine has 17 total protons, 17 total electrons, but only 7 of those electrons are valence because it is in group 7A, which means it will need 1 more to fill its outer shell. Hydrogen has 1 proton and 1 electron. It only has 1 electron shell, so that 1 electron is the valence electron. Now, hydrogen is an exception here since it is in that first row. It only wants to get 2 valence electrons. Hydrogen and helium are the exceptions to the octet rule. They only want to get 2 electrons to fill their outer shell. So it will only need 1 more to fill that outer shell. So make sure you have finished the rest of this chart before you go on to the next step. All right, so now we are ready to start drawing our covalent bonds. So the boxes will look a little bit different for the covalent bonds. You will see you'll have 1 box for drawing the shared electrons that are circled, and then 1 box to tell me the number of bonds that are in the compound. So our compound is Br2, which means we have 2 of them. Okay, and then you want to draw the dot diagram for bromine. So bromine has 7 valence electrons. And as you get better at this, you will learn how to draw the dot diagrams, arrange them in a way that it makes drawing the circles easier. Okay, so the way that I have drawn these dot diagrams, the outside 3 sides of the bromines have their paired up electrons, and the inside right here, there's 1 on each bromine that is left alone. So you would circle those like that to show that those are bonded, and that shows you the number of bonds is the number of circles that you have. So there is just 1 bond. Now I do want to show you, because I did teach you a specific way to draw these dot diagrams. So as you start working and learning how to draw them, it's fine for you to draw them like this. So this lone electron will have to bond with this one. So you'll just have to be very careful and loop around, making sure you're only getting those electrons in the bond. So that is acceptable as well. It's a little messy drawing on the computer screen, but if you have to loop your circles around for your bonds, that's fine too, to start off with. Okay, so let's do the next example here. We have O2, so 2 oxygens. And each oxygen has 6 valence electrons. Okay, so we'll add one more there and one more there. Okay, so each oxygen needs to get 8. So we have 2 lonely electrons on each oxygen, so that means that there's going to be 2 bonds. So we're going to circle this pair right here, so that's going to bond. And then this pair down here is also going to bond. And now each oxygen will have 8 valence electrons. And since we have 2 circles, that means that we have 2 bonds in this molecule. All right, I'm going to go through one more example with you, and I'm going to go through CO2. So that means we have 1 carbon, and whichever element is first is the one we draw in the center, and 2 oxygens. So carbon will have 4 valence electrons, so draw 4 dots around the carbon, and then again, remember each oxygen is going to have 6. So carbon needs 4 bonds to fill its octet. Each oxygen is going to need 2. Right? So we put a circle around these 2 dots here and those 2 dots there. So now this oxygen has 8 valence electrons. Right now, the way it's drawn, carbon has 6. We need to get it up to 8. We also need to get this oxygen to 8. So you would put a circle around those 2 electrons and those 2 electrons. So now each oxygen has its 8 valence electrons, and carbon does as well. We have 4 circles, so that means there are 4 bonds in this molecule. Okay? So keep practicing how to draw the covalent bonds and let me know if I can help you.